Hello students, today we will be doing the chapter Human Reproduction. In this part of the presentation, we will be seeing the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system in detail. The reproductive events in humans include gametogenesis. Genesis means formation. So this is formation of gametogenesis, which is the first step. And then we have insemination, which is transfer of sperms into the female genital tract. Once the sperm has entered into the female genital tract, it has to fuse with the ovum for the further process. So this fusion is called as fertilization. So fertilization is fusion of male and female gamete. That is, male is sperm and female is the ovum. So fusion of male and female gamete leads to the formation of zygote. The next step is implantation. Once zygote has developed, it has to attach to the mother's body to draw nutrition so that it can grow into a full-grown baby. So, the implantation is development of blastocyst. Blastocyst is nothing but zygote which has divided and redivided to form a mass of cell, and then this mass of cell is called as blastocyst. This blastocyst attaches to the uterine wall, and this process is called as implantation. Once the blastocyst has attached to the uterine wall, it continues to draw nutrition from the mother's body and continues to develop into an embryo and then into a full-grown fetus. The period from the zygote formation to formation of blastocyst and a complete baby development is called as gestation. That is, gestation is the duration in which the embryo develops completely to form a full-grown baby. Once the baby is completely developed, it has to come out of the mother's body, and this step is called as parturition, which is delivery of the baby. So the male reproductive system is present in the pelvic region. So this is the pelvic region. The male reproductive system includes a pair of testes, accessory ducts, that is the ducts which carry the sperms, glands which secrete certain secretions which help in the reproduction, and external genitalia. So this is a sectional view of male pelvic region. So here you can see different parts. So this is the scrotum. We'll be studying each part in a more detailed manner in future slides. So here we will see the few of them, which is, this is the testis, and surrounding this is the scrotum, right? This is the external genitalia, which is the penis, and from the testis you have this duct which is arising, which is vas deferens, right? And then here you have this structure, which is the seminal vesicle. This is the seminal vesicle. And then you have this part, which is the urinary bladder, right? And here you have the prostate. And this is the ureter, which is the ureter which joins with the kidneys. right? And then, yeah, we'll see rest of the parts in future slides. So the first part, which is testis. Testis is the primary male sex organ. And why is it called primary? Primary because this is the organ which actually secretes the sperms. So testis produces two. One is sperm, which is a male gamete, and other is the androgen, mainly the testosterone, which is the testicular hormone. Other than testosterone, other hormones are also present, but the main one is testosterone. So testis is the primary male sex organ. Why it is called primary? Because it secretes the sperms which further help in reproduction. Now let us learn more about testis. Testis is situated outside the abdominal cavity, right? You saw that it is not within the abdominal cavity, but it is outside the abdominal cavity, and it is placed in a pouch, which is called the scrotum. The scrotum helps in maintaining lesser temperature of the testis when you compare with the rest of the body. This temperature helps in spermatogenesis. It helps in spermatogenesis. Again, genesis is formation, spermato is formation of sperms. In adults, each testis is oval shaped and length is about 4 to 5 centimeter and width is at about 2 to 3 centimeters. The testis is covered by a dense covering. This covering is called as tunica albuginea. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules. Each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. Here we are seeing a section of testis. The testis contains 200 to 250 testicular lobules. So these are the testicular lobules. Within these testicular lobules, you have around 3 seminiferous tubules. These are the coiled seminiferous tubules, right? So these testicular lobules are separated by the layer of tunica albuginea. So these testicular lobules are covered by a layer of tissue called as capsule, which is the tunica albuginea. Outer to the tunica albuginea, you have another layer which is called as tunica vaginalis. These seminiferous tubules will further join together and form this anastomizing structure which is called as rete testis. From the rete testis, you have the tubules which are arising from here, which are called the efferent tubules, vasa deferens. Vasa deferens is these efferent ductules. They all join together to form the single structure which is called as epididymis. Epididymis is the region where the maturation of sperms occur. Epididymis also stores the sperms. And from the epididymis, you have this structure which arises, which is called as vas deferens. So here you have vasa efferentia, and here you have the vas deferens. So we can say that the epididymis connects the testis part with that of the vas deferens. So here we have the male reproductive system sectional view. This is the median plane view, and here you have the frontal view. So in your examination, I would suggest you draw this diagram. The male reproductive system is an important diagram for your examination. So here you see the different parts: the testicular testis, the testicular lobules. Testicular lobules have the seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules give rise to the network, which is the rete testis. Rete testis further gave rise to the vasa efferentia. Vasa efferentia joined together to give rise to epididymis. Epididymis is the region where the sperms are stored, and maturation of sperms also occurs in epididymis. From the epididymis, you have the vas deferens, which is arising. Vas deferens will go and join with the seminal vesicle. The secretions of the prostate, bulbourethral gland, and seminal vesicle, all of them together will come out through the urethra to the exterior. Let's learn more about seminiferous tubules. So seminiferous tubules, now you know where the seminiferous tubules are. It is there within the testicular lobules, which are present within testis. So seminiferous tubules are lined inside by two types of cells. They are: one, the male germ cells, also called as spermatogonial cells, and two, the Sertoli cells, which are also called as nurse cells. Why are they called as nurse cells? Because they nourish the growing sperm cells. The growing male germ cells are nourished by the nutrition which is supplied by Sertoli cells. The male germ cells undergo meiosis to give rise to sperms, and the Sertoli cells provide nutrition to growing sperms. Now, region outside the seminiferous tubule is called as interstitial space. The interstitial space has three types of cells. One, the immunological cells. Two, the blood vessels. And three, the interstitial cells or Leydig cells. So, you should remember that in interstitial space, you have the Leydig cell, whereas within the seminiferous tubule, you have the Sertoli cell. These Leydig cells synthesize and secrete androgen. So I told you before, the main testicular hormone is testosterone. Now you see a sectional view of a seminiferous tubule over here. So here in this portion, within this area, you have your growing sperms. It is spermatogonial cells. Once they grow, they form the spermatozoa, and interstitial space has the interstitial cells, which is the blood vessels, immunocompetent cells, and your Leydig cells. So this is the histological view of testicular lobule. So here, hope you can appreciate this diagram, this section. Within this, you have these spermatogonial cells, and this is your interstitial space. This is the interstitial space in which you have other cells. This is another section. Again, you have the spermatocytes, spermatozoa, Sertoli cells, which provide nutrition to growing sperms. And in the interstitial space, you have the blood vessels, Leydig cells, and the immunocompetent cells. Accessory glands that are associated with the male reproductive system. You have the prostate gland, a pair of Cowper's glands, or also called as bulbourethral gland, and a pair of seminal vesicles. So prostate, it secretes a fluid which is containing citrate. The secretion of prostate nourishes and activates spermatozoa to swim. So prostate secretion helps the spermatozoa to swim. The bulbourethral gland, it secretes a secretion which serves to neutralize any acid that is there in the urethra. And the seminal vesicles, these seminal vesicles do not store sperms. They produce a seminal fluid which is rich in fructose, which provides nutrition, or it provides the energy for the spermatozoa to swim. Also, it contains a coagulating enzyme, and it also has some prostaglandins which help in contraction. It will help the female reproductive part to contract so that it can help the sperm to meet the ovum in oviduct. So the secretions of all these three are called as the seminal plasma. The seminal plasma plus the sperms, both together, that is, seminal plasma and the sperms, are called as semen. So here we are seeing your reproductive system again. Now you might be comfortable with the different parts of the system. What is the functions of seminal plasma? Seminal plasma is rich in fructose, calcium, and some enzymes. It helps in transporting sperms. It supplies nutrition to the sperms. That is, the fructose helps in supplying nutrients. And it provides alkalinity to counteract the acidity of uterus. Secretion of the bulbourethral or the Cowper's gland lubricate the penis. Secretion of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and prostate help in maturation and motility of the sperm. The ducts which help in transportation of sperms are called as accessory ducts. So these are the rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, and vas deferens. So these four terms we've already seen with respect to section of testis. So in this section that we see here, we can see that rete testis is a network of tubules which is there in this region. Okay, it is there in this region. And arising from this region, you have the tubules, the efferent tubules, which is called as arising from this region, is the vasa efferentia, right? And vasa efferentia, these tubules will join together to form the single tubule, which is the epididymis. So this region is your epididymis. From epididymis arises this tubule, which is the vas deferens. This duct, which is vas deferens. So the sperms get matured in epididymis. Testis synthesizes the sperms. They mature in the epididymis and transported through vas deferens to other parts. Accessory ducts conduct sperms from testis in the following manner. So the seminiferous tubules are the region where the sperms are synthesized. They open up into a network of tubules which is called as rete testis. Rete testis connects the seminiferous tubules to the ducts. It is efferent ducts, also called as ductus efferentia. These efferentia, the ductus efferentia or vasa efferentia or the efferent tubules, they open up into the epididymis, where the epididymis stores the sperms temporarily, and then it is transported via the vas deferens to the common ejaculatory duct. And this vas deferens, it receives a duct from the seminal vesicle, right? It receives a duct from the seminal vesicles, and then it opens up as the common ejaculatory duct. This common ejaculatory duct opens into the urethra. Urethra opens as an external opening called as urethral meatus. So the last external opening is called as urethral meatus. External genitalia, that is the penis. Penis is the copulatory organ made of the erectile spongy tissue and blood vessels. When spongy tissue is filled with blood, it helps in erection of the penis. It facilitates insemination. So what is insemination? We have already seen previously. And large end of this penis is called the glans penis. Glans penis is covered by a loose fold of skin, and this is called as foreskin. So this is the glans penis, enlarged portion, and it is covered by a skin which is called as foreskin. Hope by now you're all familiar with all the different parts that are there as a part of the male reproductive system. Let us now study about the female reproductive system. So this is a sectional view of the female reproductive system. So here it contains the uterus. This is the uterus. Let me take a pen. This is the uterus region. It has 3 layers, which is endometrium, myometrium, perimetrium. This is the fimbriae. Here you have your ovary. And this is the fallopian tube. Here you have the fallopian tube. And you have the cervix. The canal within is called a cervical canal, and the vagina. So we will see all these parts in a little more detail. So here I would like you to concentrate this part, the fimbriae and the ovary. So when the ovum is released, the fimbriae will act like a finger-like structure, and it will help in grabbing the ovum and transporting it to the fallopian tube. So like the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system is also located in the pelvic region. It consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, uterus, cervix, vagina, external genitalia. These parts, along with a pair of mammary glands, support the process of ovulation, that is formation of ovum, fertilization, that is fusion of male and female gamete, pregnancy, birth, and childcare. Ovaries. Ovaries are the primary female sex organs. So in case of male, it is testis, and in case of female, the primary sex organ is the ovaries. Ovaries produce ovum, which is the female gamete, and the ovarian hormones, which is the progesterone and estrogen. Now let's see about ovaries in a little more detail. The ovaries are located one on each side of the lower abdomen. So here you see one ovary and here you see another. Each ovary is about 2 to 4 centimeter in length. It is connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by ligaments. So here you see the ligaments, this portion you see the ligaments. So these ligaments help in connecting the ovary to the pelvic wall. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. I'll show a different picture for this. This stroma is divided into two zones. One is the peripheral cortex and inner to that is medulla. So you remember outer layer is called as cortex and inner layer is called as medulla. So here you see the section of ovary. The inner portion is called the medulla and the outer portion, that is this whole portion, is called as the cortex. The accessory ducts in the female reproductive system are the oviducts or the fallopian tubes, uterus and the vagina. The fallopian tube. It is about 10 to 12 centimeter long. It extends from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. So you can see from the periphery of the ovary, this is the ovary, this is the ovary, and from the periphery of ovary, it is extending, and if you further, it goes to the uterus. This is your uterus area, right? So here you have another fallopian tube. This is one fallopian tube, another fallopian tube, and they extend to the uterus. The part closer to the ovary is funnel shaped and it is called as infundibulum. The part which is close to the ovary is called as infundibulum. And the edges of the infundibulum have these finger-like projections which are called as fimbriae. The fimbriae helps in collection of ovum. So when the ova is released, the fimbriae helps in collecting the ova and transporting it through the fallopian tube. The infundibulum further leads to a region which is called as ampulla. And from the ampulla, you have the next region which is called as isthmus. Ampulla is more wider when compared to that of isthmus. So isthmus further joins the uterus region. So how does it work out? The ovum from the ovary goes into the infundibulum with the help of fimbriae. And from there, it goes to isthmus through ampulla. Uterus. So again, this is the uterus part, right? Now uterus, we have a single uterus and it is called as womb. This uterus opens into a narrow cervix, this region, which further opens out into the vagina. The cavity of the cervix, this region, this cavity is called as the cervical cavity. Cervical canal along with the vagina forms the birth canal. Let me erase this. So your embryo attaches to this region and develops, and when it completely develops, it moves out through this canal which is called as birth canal. So the cervical canal along with the vagina forms the birth canal. The wall of the uterus has 3 layers. The wall of the uterus has 3 layers. One, the endometrium. 2, the myometrium, and 3, the perimetrium. Okay, so the perimetrium is the external layer, right? And the myometrium is the middle layer, which has a thick layer of smooth muscles. So myo means muscles. So it has muscles which contract during the delivery of baby. Inner to the myometrium, you have the endometrium, which has the glands, and it is the innermost layer. So if you go from out to in, you have perimetrium, then myometrium, and then endometrium. So endometrium lines the uterine cavity. And yeah, endometrium is the layer which undergoes the cyclical changes which occur during menstrual cycle. Now, external genitalia, they include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora. Mons pubis is the cushion of fatty tissue which is surrounding the pubic symphysis. This bone, which is called as pubic symphysis, is surrounded by the fatty tissue, and this is covered by skin and the pubic hair. Labia majora. Labia means lips, majora is major. So it is the lips which are larger. So they are fleshy folds of tissue which extend down from the mons pubis. So from here, this is your mons pubis, this place. And from here, whatever extends down is the labia majora. Labia minora is the pair of folds of tissue which is under the labia majora. So labia minora is the smaller lips which are there under the labia majora. Hymen. It is the membrane that covers the vagina partially. So here you see this portion is the vaginal portion, and the membrane which covers the vagina is called as the hymen. Hymen is generally broken or torn during the intercourse, but even doing physical activities like cycling, hymen might tear. Clitoris. Clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minora, and it is above this urethral opening. This is the urethral opening, and above this urethral opening you have the clitoris. And other parts you can see, which is urinary bladder. Here you have the uterus, and behind them you have the rectum. So, sectional view of female pelvis again. This is again the external genitalia from the frontal view. Here you can see the labia majora, which extends from the mons pubis, which is in this region, and then you have inner to this the labia minora, and this is the vagina, and this is the urethra from where the urine is passed, and this is the finger-like structure which is the clitoris. Mammary glands or the breasts. These are paired, and in the mammary glands you have the glandular tissue and fat. So mammary glands are basically the glandular tissue and fat. The glandular tissue is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. So lobes are present, and these lobes contain the alveoli. The alveoli contains the cells which secrete milk, and it is stored in the cavities or the lumen of alveoli. These alveoli open into the mammary tubules. Mammary tubules join and form the mammary duct, and several of these mammary ducts join to form the mammary ampulla, which secretes out milk through the lactiferous duct. So this is the sequence of the cells that are present, the structures that are present in mammary gland. So you have the glandular tissue. The glandular tissue is divided into mammary lobes, and these lobes contain alveoli which secrete milk in their cavities. These alveoli open into mammary tubules, and many of these tubules join to form the mammary duct, and many of these mammary ducts join and form the ampulla, which release out the milk through lactiferous duct. So this is the structure of mammary gland. The diagram is again important. All the diagrams in this chapter are important. So here you have the fat tissue. Most of it is made up of fat tissue, and then also you have the glandular tissue, right? So here you have the mammary lobe. Within the mammary lobe, you have the alveolus. Many of these alveoli will open up into the tubules. Tubules will join and form the mammary duct, which open into the structure which is called as ampulla. Ampulla means open, wider region, and they all join out through the lactiferous duct, and this outer portion is called the nipple, and the areolar portion is the pigmented portion surrounding the nipple. So let's see what is the difference between primary sex organ and secondary sex organ. The primary sex organ includes the gonads, that is testis and ovary. The secondary sex organs includes the reproductive ducts and the reproductive glands. The primary sex organs produce the gametes, that is spermatozoa and ova, and they also secrete the sex hormones, that is your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. The secondary sex organs, they carry gametes to the site of fertilization, and they also provide space for embryonic